Cheap versus expensive leaf blowers.
So we started with our cheap option. We stuck it into our mini ball pit to see how many balls it could really displace. And it didn't really seem too strong. Now for our expensive option. And you can clearly see this leaf blower pushes back the balls a lot more. For our second test, we placed the ball on top of the leaf blower to see how high it could push the ball up. And you can see the expensive leaf blower shoots the ball a lot higher. And we tried it one last time with dropping the ball inside the leaf blower and then turning it on, and it shot up super high.
And expensive wins! Small versus huge pencils.
Our small pencil measured in at a tiny 7.5 inches while our big pencil measured in at 12 inches. First we tested out the lead on each pencil. Our small pencil produced nice, sharp, and dark writing. And as far as grip, it wasn't too uncomfortable to use. Now for the massive pencil. It was definitely a lot harder to grip because of how fat it was, but I had to figure it out. But honestly, as far as how it wrote, I would say that the smaller pencil did a better job. Now we're testing the erasers. We started with the small pencil going twice in a straight line. And I would say the small eraser did a great job. And now we tested the big eraser. It honestly did a horrible job and just kept smudging all the lead. We did one last back and forth with both erasers, but it was clear that the small just did a better job. So now I think it's pretty clear that size doesn't matter.
And small wins. Cheap versus expensive staplers. Whoa!
We put 60 sheets of paper in between both staplers to see which one could make it all the way through. The cheap was barely able to make it through half of the sheets, while the expensive made it all the way through pretty cleanly.
And expensive wins. Cheap versus expensive hair straighteners.
So we purchased a wig and tested out both straighteners. We tested to see how many strokes it would take to straighten the curly hair. For our cheap option, it took 5 strokes at max temperature. And now for our expensive option. And it only took 3 strokes with the expensive flat iron. Our cheap option is a $15 Conair flat iron, while our expensive option is a CHI original flat iron for $60. And judging from this test, the expensive flat iron takes the dub.
And expensive wins. Cheap versus expensive charging bricks.
For our cheap option, we have a basic $5 gas station charging brick. And our expensive option is the #1 bestseller Anchor charging brick for $60. So we used 2 dead iPhones and plugged them both in at the same exact time to see which one can get to full battery the fastest. And the expensive booted up the phone first. After about 45 minutes, we came back to check the percents, and you could see that the expensive definitely kept up a good lead. For the entire time, the expensive charger kept its phone at about a 10 to 15% lead. And after an hour and a half, the expensive charger got its phone to 100%. So in my opinion, having a fast charger is a really important thing to have, so I would pay the $60 for the expensive charger.
And expensive wins. Cheap versus expensive knee pads.
So we tested if the knee pads would be able to protect the watermelons from being hit with an axe. We did a series of smacks, gradually getting harder and harder. And in the end, both knee pads held up pretty well, taking barely any damage. And it's a tie!
Towel versus AirTag.
Our first test is a scavenger hunt to see who could find their tag in a quicker time. We also provided the interface that you would see if you bought each device. I was able to complete the scavenger hunt in just under a minute. Now for the AirTag. In my opinion, the interface provided for the Apple AirTag definitely helps you find your product a lot easier. But the volume of the AirTag's ringer is a lot more quiet than the tile. It ended up taking him just over a minute to find the AirTag. So I would say that both products definitely have their pros and cons, but overall it does balance itself out and either would work perfectly.
And it's a tie.